What would drive a 19-year-old boy to murder a 15-year-old in cold blood, all to hide a dark secret? Alex Rada was just a teenager, vibrant, loved. But one fateful night, he crossed paths with Matthew Mason, a seemingly ordinary farmer's son, and what unfolded was a twisted tale of blackmail, hidden desires, and betrayal. This is the tragic story of how an innocent friendship spiraled into a brutal and calculated killing. What led to Alex's murder? And how did a boy from a loving home become the target of such horror? Alex Rada was a 15-year-old boy from Knutsford, England, who attended the Holmes Chapel Comprehensive School in Cheshire. He was in year 11 and was extremely popular amongst his friendship group. As well as being described as a thoughtful and loving young boy, Alex was openly gay and quite an outgoing person. He was extremely fortunate in that his friends and family were so accepting of him and didn't treat him any differently to how they had before he came out to them. In late October 2019, Alex was using Facebook when his attention was caught by an older boy who had also attended the same school as him. This boy was 19-year-old Matthew Mason. Despite the 4-year age gap and Alex being below the age of consent, 16 years old in the UK, Alex decided to send a message to Matthew. Matthew Mason was a quiet guy, from an affluent church-going family, an outdoorsy farmer's son, who had left high school to study at college. Matthew, unlike Alex, was not gay, and in fact, had been in a relationship for 2 years with a girl called Caitlin. Despite this, when Matthew seen that Alex had messaged him, he responded. The messages between the pair started off polite, with them both asking how their days were going. But after about a week, the messages turned more intimate. Matthew claims that this began when Alex had complimented him, telling him he was fit, a common term in the UK that means handsome or attractive. It seems that this had quite a positive effect on Matthew, because he gave Alex his Snapchat username, and from there, they both began to exchange images back and forth. One night, drunk after a night out at the pub, Matthew sent Alex a nude picture of his genitals. Due to Alex being underage at just 15 years old, this was illegal, as it could be seen as him grooming Alex and also sending sexual images to a child. However, Matthew would later claim that Alex had asked him to. Even if this was so, it was still a crime and a chargeable offense. Matthew had also sent Alex a video of him masturbating. These messages would have devastating consequences and end in a very avoidable tragedy. It was a couple of days later when Alex found out that Matthew had been hiding a secret from him. His girlfriend. Alex, who had excitedly been telling his friends about a new boy he'd been seeing, felt betrayed by Matthew. Feeling anger and frustration, he decided to send another message, this time to Matthew's girlfriend, Caitlin, exposing her boyfriend for his illicit relationship with him. Matthew later admitted that he began to question his sexuality, and when Alex had messaged him, he began to consider the fact that he could be bisexual. However, this was something he had kept strictly to himself, and the thought of anyone around him finding out, especially his girlfriend, was too much to bear. On November 3rd, he wrote, "Are you going out with Matt Mason?" To which she replied, "Yes." Alex then replied, "Because I thought I should let you know that the past 2 to 3 weeks Matt has been trying to message me. He came to my house in his car to meet me last week, but I told him my dad wouldn't let me out, so I didn't meet him. I have told him it has to stop, but just thought I'd let you know before he does a head move, and I didn't know he was dating you until I went to go follow him on Instagram." Meanwhile, Alex also messaged Matthew, explaining why he had contacted his girlfriend. When Matthew reacted furiously and asked why he had done it, Alex replied, "Because it's wrong. You have a GF that loves you. There's no need to speak to me." An hour later, Alex told Matthew, "You need to tell your GF the truth, Matt, because I already have." At that point, the relationship between the teenagers took a disturbing turn. Later that day, Matthew added Alex as a payee to his bank account and transferred him £50. That came just minutes after Alex told Matthew that he still had the nude image he had sent to him and suggested he would post it online. When Matthew had tried to deny ever sending any such image, Alex got annoyed and said, "Don't lie. I will literally put it on my story if you don't stop lying." Matthew began to plead with Alex, telling him that he was trying to talk to his girlfriend and come clean to her. However, at this point, Caitlin had already dumped Matthew following the claims by Alex. Despite the apparent animosity between them, on November 9th, the pair had met up and Alex performed a sex act on Matthew. In the first 2 weeks of that month, Matthew paid Alex a total of £1,270, with the payments linked to sexual encounters. Alex confided to his friends during this time and told them everything he was doing. They knew what Alex doing wasn't right, but said he still did it. In one message, a friend said, "You actually need to stop though, it's not fair. If he doesn't pay you, what will you do?" "Tell the Fed and get him on sex offenders," Alex replied. His friend replied, "And then he says you blackmailed him and you get into Shetty. Yeah, great plan. It's a criminal offense. When are you going to stop seriously?" "Love you, gorgeous. Give you £50 for Xmas kicks," Alex replied. From the messages, you can tell Alex was very naive and didn't grasp the danger of the situation. Later, one of Alex's friends told police that Matthew would often go round to Alex's home when his mum went out, and this was done on at least 5 occasions. Alex was speaking to his girlfriends frequently about his new relationship. It boosted his confidence, with friends recalling how he seemed to be glowing with it at school. Messages between him and Mason show that Alex was asking for more money from him as time went on, however. At one point, Mason told Alex he was skint and couldn't afford it, but then went on to pay the schoolboy £700. A close friend of Alex's told the jury that she thought he saw it as a game, stating, "The difference between him being a child and an adult, he was naive. I don't think he understood the concept of everything." On December 7th, just 5 days before tragedy happened, Matthew Mason came face to face with the schoolboy's mother. On seeing Mason in her home when she returned from being out, Lisa Rada's blood ran cold. She later described him as having cold and soulless eyes. "When I looked into that boy's eyes, I have never ever in my life felt fear. My whole body felt fear," she said. "He was like a robot." Text messages would later indicate that Lisa Rada had interrupted Matthew Mason having intercourse with Alex. In another message, Alex's friend called him a prostitute, to which he replied, "Money, money, money." Later that day, Mason transferred £100 to Alex. It was his final payment. Internet searches over the next couple of days revealed Mason was already thinking about killing Alex. Mason searched these terms online. What would happen if you kicked someone down the stairs? Everyday poison. Things that are poisonous. People missing in Cheshire. And the mysteries of Cheshire, unsolved deaths of missing people. Alex was last seen on CCTV leaving his house on Holly Grove at 5:24 p.m. after Mason had messaged him on Snapchat. A friend of Alex said he was happy about going out with Mason, but following a second FaceTime call, their concerns grew. "He called me and he said, 'How weird is this? This guy I'm meeting wants to take me to a special secret place in a forest,' they said." The witness said that Alex was confused during the call, but later agreed to going with Mason because he needed the money. He had left the house at 5:30. Minutes after getting into Mason's car, Alex posted a picture on his Snapchat story to his friends. It showed the inside of Mason's car and had a small love heart emoji at the bottom. It was the last message he ever sent. On that cold and rainy night, Mason drove Alex to Woodland at Ashley, near Altrincham, in his black Renault Clio. He parked up the car. He then dragged Alex from the car and rained at least 15 heavy blows to his head with a wrench. Following the attack, Mason left Alex, alone and partially clothed, to die. He had still been breathing as Matthew stood and smoked a cigarette before deciding on his next move. He discovered Alex's phone on the passenger seat and got rid of it. Matthew knew how much evidence was on the phone. To this day, it has not been recovered. As friends and family of Alex frantically searched for him, Mason went to the Red Lion pub in Pickmere and the Golden Pheasant pub in Plumley, where he had a drink with friends before making his way home. A Snapchat selfie he sent to friends from the pub, and a bare-chested photo of himself he sent, smiling later on, to his girlfriend from his bed, were callous attempts to cover his tracks. Meanwhile, Alex's mother Lisa was becoming increasingly concerned when he did not return home, and she made numerous attempts to ring his phone, but the calls would not connect. She rang a number of his friends who said they had not seen or spoken to him that evening. As Alex's friends knew he had formed a relationship with Mason, they messaged him over 2 hours, desperate to know he was safe and well. Alex's mom was made aware of this and contacted Mason before reporting her son missing to police. Most of their calls and messages went unanswered as Mason traveled back to the scene of his horrific crime in the early hours of Friday the 13th of December. It is during this time that the prosecution believes Matthew went into the woods and dragged Alex's now lifeless body to the track at the side of the road in an attempt to put him inside his car. After failing to do this, he then drove away. But one final message ended Mason's hopes of getting away with murder. At 00:35 a.m., Cheshire Police texted Mason saying, "Matthew, could you please contact Cheshire Police with regards to your friend Alex? Thank you. Stephen Wilson." A bin man was the one to find Alex's body during the morning bin collection rounds. In court, he said, "At 7:40 a.m. on December 13th, 2019, me and my colleagues were driving along Ashley Mill Lane when one of my colleagues said, 'There is a dead body in the road.' The bin man approached the body and attempted to find a pulse with no success. He rang emergency services who gave him instructions to start CPR. The man noted blood on the head and later said that it appeared he had a wound on the base of his back and mud on his face. He began chest compressions on the body for 10 minutes until an ambulance arrived. A statement from a paramedic who raced to the scene said resuscitation attempts were unsuccessful and his time of death was pronounced at 8:12 a.m. After Alex's body was found, a witness informed police he had taken a photo shortly after 6 p.m. on Thursday the 12th of December, as he suspected drug dealing in the area. The photo was of a black Renault Clio parked on the track beside the gated entrance to the woods. The details of the car were checked by police, and Mason was identified as the owner of the vehicle. Around 12 hours later, at noon December 13th, Matthew Mason, who was instantly suspected by Alex's mother Lisa, was stopped by police on the A41 in Staffordshire and arrested. Matthew was found with dried blood on his hands and fingers, and inside the boot of his car was a bin bag with his blood-stained green fleece, the wrench, and Alex's large padded jacket. Following his arrest, he was taken into custody to be questioned, which led to him being charged with murder. A year later, he went on trial at Chester Crown Court. After being found guilty, he was sentenced on January 25, 2021, to a minimum life sentence of 28 years. However, in June of 2021, a successful appeal by Matthew Mason got his sentence reduced. A panel of 3 Court of Appeal judges agreed to reduce the minimum term he must serve in prison to 26 years after ruling that the initial sentence was manifestly excessive. Alex's father, Adam Rada Senior, reacted furiously and rightly so, stating, "If he's not too young to have murdered somebody, then he is not too young to take the sentence," and adding that it was a joke. Alex's funeral was held on the 29th of January. Hundreds of mourners gathered to pay their respects. The small Cheshire village of Odlum stood completely still as Alex's hearse made its way through the streets, and there were large crowds outside the church where a service was held to celebrate his life.